So as a full-time software engineer, I'm working 8 hours a day at my job, and I'm always training for something, whether it's an ultramarathon, an Ironman, new strength personal best. And when I'm not training, I'm typically working on one major goal that I'd like to achieve in my personal life, whether it's building an app, making content. In this video, I'm going to break down how I split up my day, the tools I use to set goals, manage my time, and make sure that I achieve all of the tasks that are required, and show you the strategies I use to avoid burnout. So how do I get so much done in one day? I always wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the day starts with a walk outside. And the reason I do this is because it's probably had the biggest impact on my sleep. If you're anywhere on HealthTube at the minute, the big rage is about morning sunlight and setting your circadian rhythm so that you have that cortisol hit just before you wake up. So I'm typically getting out of bed before my alarm goes off. The reason this happens is because my brain is primed to see sunlight and it anticipates it. Also, it's good to get outside because I'm spending a lot of hours sat down otherwise. So I get back in typically at 10 to 7, throw some scrambled eggs in the microwave and cut up an avocado for breakfast. And then I start work. I fit in basically a 4-hour deep work session where normally this will be whatever my task is for the day, just trying to get as much done code-wise for it. This is without distractions, so I have my phone turned off. I'm remoting into my work computer, so I don't have any social media distractions or anything like that. Just straight up 4 hours straight of coding. So at this point, I'll have my second meal, which is normally just something that I throw in the microwave. I meal prep my first lunch on a Sunday, and I do 5 days worth of Tupperware that just goes straight in the freezer. I pull it out the night before, so then I can literally finish up my 4-hour coding, go for it in the microwave, make a coffee, and get back to my desk with it. And I'll typically review what I've spent those 4 hours doing while I finish up that food. So that brings me into my lunch break, which again is trying to get outside as much as possible because otherwise I would spend my life inside. Again, helping with the circadian rhythm, trying to get into nature. I live near a golf course, which has a nice walk around the perimeter, so typically I'll walk around that with my girlfriend, and we'll just talk and not think about work, and this helps break up the day nicely. So at this point, I'll try and prioritize my less important work, so whether it's writing documentation, or just carrying on with what I was originally working on, to be fair. I get better work done in the morning, so that's why I try and focus that 4-hour block as just, okay, this is going to be good code output. And I find that this kind of prioritization of most important stuff first and then pushing emails and whatnot and meetings if I can to the evening works a lot better for me. And at the end of that, I'm having another meal. So this is typically reheated leftovers from the dinner of the previous night. And you'll notice that I'm eating every 4 hours, and this is to maximize protein synthesis. And then for the last half hour of work, it'll be the same. I'll go over what I've done in my secondary work bout, make sure it's correct, review it. That's basically how I like to break up my work day. We do an agile system, so I come in at the beginning of a sprint, I'll pick tasks that provide the most value to the team, and then work on them in this format until I complete them, then pick up another one, rinse and repeat. So luckily, a lot of my work doesn't really involve meetings, it's mostly just getting straight in with the code. Right, so when I finish my day, normally that's straight into exercise of some sort. So at the moment, what I tend to do is I alternate it. So one day I'll go to the gym and do strength training. The following day, I'll do an hour of, say, running, cycling, some kind of cardio. If I'm in the office, this is my commute. So I'll be cycling back, or I'll get the bus part way, and then I'll run the rest of the way. This way I'm getting about an hour's worth of intense exercise and about an hour's worth of just moderate walking. Sometimes I'll put some weight in my backpack if I'm feeling like I need to get a bit extra done. And also another thing that I do while doing this, especially when I'm doing cardio, I'll listen to an audiobook. I don't have time to read anymore, and I used to love reading. I know some people do it before bed, and that's their way of winding down, but I typically find that by the time I get to that point, I'm too tired to actually take in what I'm reading. So I like to do, especially if I'm doing zone 2 cardio, I'm running at a pace where I can concentrate, so I just throw my AirPods in and I work through books on Spotify. So then between 5 and 7, this is my personal time. So this is time that I specifically have for not doing anything work related. I try to get friends round as often as possible, or meet up with friends for coffee, and maybe that will spill into dinner. So actually this could typically overflow by quarter of an hour because I eat my final meal at 7. And this meal, even if it's just me and my girlfriend, I'll cook for 4 people. I'll serve up our 2 dinners, and then the other 2 I'll throw into Tupperware for us to reheat the next day, and that's how I manage to consistently have 4 meals. High protein whole food meals. I try to avoid technology during this time, and again, I try to be outside, so maybe straight from the gym, we'll go to a coffee shop, or we'll meet friends, or if it's terrible weather, sure, we'll just sit at home watching TV. I try to let myself wind down from the day at this point. So normally after I've eaten, I'll have my final bout of energy for the evening. I work from about 7 till 9:30 on a side hustle, whether this is content creation like what I'm doing now, or working on an app. Typically a lot of what I code in my spare time is trying to make things during my day more efficient. So, for example, like an app that I recently wrote made it so that I could just put in my height and weight and it would plan out my meals for the week based on the diet that I want. And then it'll produce a shopping list. So when I go shopping, which is normally during my personal time, I can spend as little time as possible. It organizes by aisle. I just go aisle, pick up the food, go to the counter, pay, leave, and the recipes are automatically generated as well. And it's all based on foods that I like. So I'm always eating stuff that I enjoy, but also that's healthy. And then the last half hour to 45 minutes that I'm awake, I tend to spend that as like wind down time. So again, that might just be chatting with my girlfriend, watching a bit of trash TV, that kind of stuff. And then I fall asleep and start again. So I'm getting about, 7.5 hours of sleep. Now, that's basically how I break up my day and why I do it. Now, you might be wondering, okay, that's cool, but how do you keep this organized? Well, you've just watched me basically do exactly how I organize. So once a quarter, or if I find that I'm feeling burnt out or not enjoying what I'm doing, I reassess. And typically the reason that I feel burnt out is because the thing that I'm doing as my side hustle isn't fulfilling. This part has to be fun. I enjoy my job. It's a good job. I like software engineering. I like problem solving. I'm in biotech, so I'm solving real world problems that have like a meaningful impact. But if this becomes too much like work, then I tend to find myself getting more and more tired and less motivated to stick to this schedule, and my personal time sometimes will span right until the evening, and I'll be slipping up on things like gym and cardio. So what I do is either quarterly or when I feel this slip happening, I'll just reassess what are my goals. And depending on my goals, that's where my side hustle and my workouts will be focused. So if my goal is to run an ultra marathon, I'll be scheduling in more cardio sessions than gym sessions. And if I decide I've lost too much muscle, then I'll do the opposite, right? And then once I've decided what my goals are, typically I pick one main goal that the side hustle will focus at. So at the minute that's YouTube. And then I aim single-mindedly at that. I don't have I want X amount of subscribers or I want X amount of views. The same way when I was writing an app, it was never, I want it done by this date. It's just that I'm going to work on it between these hours, and I want to see that each day I'm getting better at what I'm doing. Now, out of my work, my cardio, and whatever else I'm working on, typically there are things that I'll be walking or I'll be in bed and I'll think, I need to get this done. So for example, maybe start a channel, or maybe it's I need to buy a weight belt for the gym because I want to do weighted pull-ups. Or for work, we're moving into a different area and I need to learn a new area of C# a bit better. I simply just write down immediately in my tasks what it is that I want to learn. So I have the app on my phone as well, so if I'm out and about, and typically this comes to me when I'm walking because that's where great ideas come from, going for walks, and I'll quickly just jot them down and then forget about it, because that way it's not taking up mental. I don't have to think, oh yeah, I've run out of olive oil, that's another good example, or I need to build a funnel for YouTube. And then what I'll do is I'll go to my week view, and you can simply just, okay, I have spare time on Saturday, cool, I'll build a funnel there, and then that is a checkbox that appears on my phone, and I'll get a reminder at the time, and then I'll work on it and then tick it off when it's done. And it doesn't matter how mundane the thing is. If it's something that I need to remember, even if it's at work, my boss tells me that something needs doing on a certain day, I'll just immediately jot it down on my task, drop it in, and then I forget about it, because the only notifications I really get from my phone, because I've turned off all social media notifications, is my calendar, my texts, and my tasks. And typically I'll try and keep the same cadence of what I have during the week on the weekend, except I'll only do like a morning deep work block. So maybe from 7 to 11, I'd have deep work, and what I do during that block would be based on my tasks. So, okay, I'm going to get these all done in the morning, and then I've got the rest of the evening. I don't have to think, I have things that need doing, because they're done. That's the first thing So this is quite a busy and hectic timeline. So you might be wondering, okay, how are you avoiding burnout? Because this is a lot to get done. First of all, the goal system means that I'm typically working in my spare time on things that I want to. So when I'm doing cardio, I'm imagining myself in 5 months running an ultramarathon and remembering that if I don't do it, then I won't be able to achieve that goal and be in the place that I want to be. When it comes to the side hustle, I make sure that it's something that I'm interested in and passionate about, so it never feels like work. I also, once a week, book in a morning sauna and an evening sauna. If you look at my Apple Health data, you'll see that my resting heart rate normally sits at around 48, and then the day after I do the sauna, it'll drop down to like 40 for a couple of days. and then come back, and it's a complete reset for me. Like, if I feel stressed and I do a sauna day, the next day I will feel far better. And typically the way this looks is that I'll go in the morning, I'll do half an hour in the sauna, I'll take electrolytes and drink lots of water before, take a 5-minute break to cool down, typically in a cold shower, half an hour again in the sauna, come out, cold shower, go to work till the end of the day, and then I go back to the sauna, do it again, and this is once a week that I do this, and it completely resets me. I feel so much more relaxed. Any stress that's built up over a week disappears immediately. One of the ways that I track how stressed I am is I use the Training Today app. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy on sort of like the placebo of using an Apple Watch to measure how you're feeling, but actually, as somebody who kind of has the mentality of even when I'm stressed and tired, I'll just push through it and work harder, this is actually quite a nice way of being like, you know what, I'm pushing the envelope too much, I'm going to make myself ill, let's pull back. So I tend to not let my score go below 4, and if I do, I just take a day off, a full day off of not working. Well, maybe I'll go to the sauna, like I said, and then at the end of the day, I'll probably go for a longer walk down the beach with my partner. I'll try and do relaxing things that let my body recover, and I'll let myself sleep an extra hour, because sometimes you just need it. So yeah, basically I'm looking at, am I in the orange or blue zone? If I'm in the red zone, right, we need to pull back a bit, we're doing too much. Also, there's some really good studies on eating with people. Now, we tend to sit at the table, we don't sit in front of the TV when we have our dinners. I invite people round for dinners, I go out for dinners, and me and my partner always prioritize having a meal together. And this really works. After having a meal with somebody, you do just feel a lot better from a hard day's work. And lastly, as you saw from my routine, I spend a lot of time in nature, being outside, and again, if I can, I try and make sure that if I'm going for a run or I'm walking, it's through forests and green areas. And all of these things combined mean that actually, if you look at my day, it looks pretty crazy. It's very packed, but I absolutely love it. And I'm one of the happier people that I know. People at the office tend to hate me because when I do go in, they'll be like, how are you? And my typical response is too good, because genuinely, I'm normally well above average on the happiness scale. Now, on the weekends, after I get some productivity in at the beginning of the day, typically this will involve going for hikes, doing sports that I wouldn't normally have time for, bouldering, going to the pub with my mates. So the weekends are a lot more calm, the weekdays are crazy, and normally I'll have one day out of the week where it's like a sauna rest day, which just depends on how much stress is built up. And sometimes, to be honest, I go a couple of weeks where I don't feel stressed at all and things are absolutely fine. I think it's more dictated by how heavy my workload is in my full-time job than it is what I'm doing in my spare time that normally slows me down. And if that is the case, then I know what I can pull back on, not a problem. So if this video was helpful for you and you're interested in improving your general fitness, I wasn't really into fitness, it was actually software engineering that got me into it because I was spending so much time in front of the screen. So if you want a nice framework that takes you from 0 to in good enough shape that you can go out and start doing crazy things like ultramarathons or Ironmans, I've got a video that shows you my framework for fitness for software engineers. I hope this video helped, and cheers.